بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين أجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Our topic today, as we said in the end of last session, is about belonging of Ja'al to existence, belonging of making or creating or originating to existence. Sometimes this is discussed in the section on causality, al-Liya. In the discussion about al-Liya, we discuss few things. For example, one of the things is ما هي علة حاجة الممكن إلى علته. Why a contingent being needs cause. Another thing that we discuss over there is what the illa is making or doing, and this issue of Ja'al. Does it belong to Wujud, to Mahiyya, to Sayrura, etc. But here it is mentioned in the discussion about Wujud, right at the beginning of the book. So both options are possible, available. Although maybe over there is better, because by the time we reach the causality, we are more familiar with many concepts, and so over there might be better. But anyway, here this is the 17th point about Wujud. And after this, a new section starts about al-Wujub wal-Imkan, necessity and contingency. Inshallah, this would be for next week. I mean next session, tomorrow, inshallah. But here, our discussion is today about تعلق الجعل بالوجود. At the beginning, Ayatummah Mutahhari mentions one couplet of Hakim Sabzewari. This is the main couplet to begin this part. للربط والنفسية الوجود إذ قسم فالجعل للتأليف والبسيط عم. We can also say قسم, but because of amma, maybe qasam is better if someone makes this division. Wujud can be divided into wujud which is for rabt and wujud which is nafsi. Wujud which is for rabt is wujud al-rabit, which is like ma'na al-harfi. Remember in Bidaya we had this, in Usul we had this. Wujud al-nafsi is wujud al-ismi, wujud al-mahmuli. So in the same way that wujud can be divided into two types, Ja'al also includes two types. Al-Ja'lu al-Ta'lifa wal-Basita am. Ja'al is including Ja'al Ta'lifi or Ja'al Basit. Ja'al Basit is making something, giving existence to something, creating something. This is Ja'al Basit. Ja'al Murakkab or Ta'lifi is to making something. Means to, for example, making something which was yellow, red. or someone who was, for example, feeling very cold, so we put on the heater and we make him warm. So we are not making that person, we are making that person warm. We are making that fruit yellow, for example. So this is the heading. Ayatummah Mutahhari makes different introductory points to explain this discussion, although later at the end he says some of these can merge and some of these can be left for other places, so maybe the main ones are not many, but right now he has 11 points. So number 1, he says, in the past we said wujud is either mutlaq or muqayyad. Now we say it in this way. We say wujud is either nafsi ya rabit. Wujud nafsi is the same as wujud mutlaq, the absolute one that we had before. It means talking about existence of something. For example, when we say insan mawjud ast, the good point about Farsi is that this ast is mentioned. Even if you say al-insanu mawjudun, the nisbah, the relation is understood from the context. But in Farsi we say it. It's like bringing kana. Say kana zaydun mawjudan or yakunu zaydun mawjudan. So say insan mawjud ast. So what are we talking about? Existence of insan. There is nothing other than existence. So this is mutlaqul wujud. This is wujud nafsi. Sometimes we say insan nevisande ast. This human being or some human beings are writers. So this here we are not talking about the existence of human being. We are talking about human being having the quality or the description, the attribute of being a writer. So here it's not wujud of human being, it's wujud as nevisande, being nevisande, being a writer is our focus. So in the first one, when wujud is nafsi or mutlaq, we are talking about existence, and this existence is ismi, is as a noun, as mahmul, wujud mahmuli. The other one is harfi, it is rabit, and it's not possible to be understood without the other concepts around it, which are ismi. So you have to have insan, author, and then the wujud rabit between them. Okay, this is the first introduction. Number 2, ja'al. Ja'al in Arabic language means to make, to put. And sometimes ja'al means to pass a law, to make a law. Ja'al qawanin, ja'al tashri'. Sometimes I appoint someone and I say I made him, for example, my representative, I don't know, my wakil, agent to conduct, I don't know, business on my behalf, etc. But in philosophical terms, ja'al is the same as aliyah. Ayatummah Mutahhari says در اصطلاح فلسفی جعل جز علیت معنایی نداره. So there is no other meaning for جعل. It's only causing, originating. Of course, جعل is not used for all types of illah, because illah, you know, we have lots of types of illah. We have illat mu'id, we have illat mufidah. Ja'al is used for the one that gives existence. Therefore it says جعل یعنی موجود کردن علتی معلولی را. When a cause gives existence to an effect, so it's originating, is bringing to existence. Now the question is this: is Ja'al or Aliyya, in the sense of giving existence, does it belong to Wujud or to Mahiyya, or Nisba, relation between the two? And this is why, you know, this discussion can be discussed in the chapters and section of Aliyya, and can be discussed also here. The third introduction. He says, in the same way that Wujud has two types, so we have Wujud which is nafsi or mutlaq, and Wujud which is muqayyad or rabit, then things can also have two types. Sometimes they have a condition in themselves, sometimes they have a condition for another thing. So the cause then can work in different ways. For example, the cause sometimes creates something, sometimes gives a color, a taste, a touch to something that exists. You already know this. We are just trying to follow the introductions by Ayatummah Mutahhari that he makes for the sake of accuracy and clarity. So, because of this, then they say Ja'al can be Basít if it is making existence of something, and can be Ta'lifi, synthetic, if it's giving a condition to something. It's not about ijad of something. It's about having something with a certain quality. The fourth introduction. Mawjudat, mumkinat, which are created in this world, are either maddi or mujarrad. Yeah? Creatures of Allah are either maddi or mujarrad, material or immaterial. In mujarradat, in the immaterial beings, Ja'al is only Basīt, because they are created, and as soon as they are given existence and they are created, they have their qualities, their perfections, whatever. Especially, I think Ayatummah Mutahhari means mujarradat tam, because if it's not mujarradat tam, they can also change. But he's talking about mujarradat tam, those which have no potentiality, are 100% actual. Therefore, it's just a matter of creating them. we don't need to create them and then to change them, to give them a new quality or condition. But about maddiyat, material things, so philosophers say, or we can understand what they say, because Ayatummah Mutahhari says, از نظریات حکما استفاده می شود. So it means that maybe they have not very explicitly said this, but based on their points and foundations and principles, this can be made, this conclusion can be reached. That first we have maddatul mawad, primary matter, al-maddatul ula or hayula or maddatul mawad, which is made with ja'al al-Basít. It's just created. It has no condition, quality, no form, no actuality, no surah. But then forms and accidents. Sowar wa a'raz. Sowar are substances and a'raz are accidents. So these sowar and a'raz are coming as additions to that primary matter with ja'al ta'lifi or tarkibi. So if, for example, we give suratul jismiyya or jismaniyya, or for example nafs al-natiqah to madde, this is ja'al ta'lifi. If it could exist before and now get this surah. But Ayatullah Mutahhari says, if we believe in harakat jawhari, substantial motion, then things change a lot. Because according to harakat jawhari, the cause creates a substance in whose essence there is change. So you don't need to create something and then push it to move, for example, as we do in harakat ayniyya, harakat fil makan. Yeah. For example, I make a car, a statue of a car, a replica of a car, and then I push it. Or even a real car, I can, as a factory, for example, make a car and then we push it. No, harakat jawhari is not like this. Harakat jawhari is that you make something that in its essence is evolving and moving. Therefore, here maybe we don't have two ja'al, ja'al basít and ja'al murakkab. It's just ja'al basít, but is giving existence to something that in his essence or its essence is moving. So you are creating something mutaharrik, not that you create something and then you give it harakah. So he says this is a long discussion that we don't need to go into details here. The fifth introduction, he says, illa, like suppose for example A, say the first thing is a cause A, we call it cause A. If one wants to create an effect, for example jim, so aleph wants to cause or create jim. Jim is one thing, one ma'lul. But when we want to analyze jim, we may distinguish between its hasti and chisti, its being and its mahiyya. Suppose jim is, for example, a human being. if Aleph, which is the cause, creates a human being as Jim, this human being has mahiyya and wujud. We can say now al-insanu mawjudun. But outside we have only one thing. We don't have two things. We have one thing which is given. The question is insan given by the cause A, or wujud is given by the cause A? Or more than one, or nothing is given? If you say more than one, both of them, but outside we don't have two things. If you say nothing is given, also doesn't make sense because we have something now. So you have to find out which one is given. Of course, with asalatul wujud that we have already discussed, it's not very complicated. You quickly say that wujud is given. Wujud is given, but this wujud has also this mahiyya. So it's not very complicated according to asalatul wujud. What about synthetic ja'al? This was about A, cause A creating B, ma'lul B. And then we have a wujud, which is insan, and we said that wujud is given. But for example, if we have al-insan katibun, and this cause is making this person, for example, katib, something like this. He says here it doesn't, the same thing doesn't apply here. Why? Because to be something else, I mean, for example, insan being katib, or say wujud rabit. Wujud rabit has no mahiyya. If it was al-insanu mawjudun, so the whole thing was about wujudul insan, and wujud has mahiyya. This wujud is insan, is faras, is baghar, is hajar, is something. But this wujud mahmuli, this is wujud ismi, this is something that can be understood by itself. But if it is instead of one being, it's wujud rabit, means something being something. This being which is between these two has no mahiyya. Wujud rabit has no mahiyya. We had this in Bidayah also, if you remember. We said wujud rabit has no mahiyya. And then there was a beautiful point there in Bidayatul Hikmah, that if every being is wrapped and dependent on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they have mahiyya, then how this is true and not in contradiction with what we said that wujud rabit doesn't have mahiyya. So we said, over there we said that there are two considerations. If you consider ma'lulat in connection with Allah as rabit, they have no mahiyya. If they look at them independently and in contrast with other ma'lulat, then you can abstract mahiyya. This is what we had in Bidayatul Hikmah. Anyway, wujud rabit doesn't have mahiyya because it has to be something that is mustaqil bil mafhumiyya, something that can be understood by itself. And wujud rabit without parties, two or three parties, sides of the relation, cannot be understood. It's ma'nai harfi. Ma'nai harfi doesn't have mahiyya. Min doesn't have mahiyya. If you say, for example, min lil ibtida, we said this ibtida is not really meaning of min. Ibtida is ma'na al-ismi. Min is harfi, but just for the sake of understanding. So ibtida bil haml al-sha'i' is the meaning of min. We use ibtida bil haml al-awwal, we use mafhum as a way, as a bridge to reach to the mistaq. So he says maybe according to asalatul wujudi people, those who believe in primordiality of wujud, maybe this discussion was not needed. Point 6. In the discussion about causality, it is said that the reason for hajatul ma'lul ila is imkan. Why ma'lul needs the cause? Because if you remember, some people had said wujud, some people had said huduth. They thought it's huduth, we say imkan, or if you look at it from asalatul wujudi perspective, wujud faqir, wujud faqri, imkan faqri, wujud rabit. If you look at it from mahiyati perspective, which is still true, even if you are a believer in asalatul wujud, we said many times that still you can argue many times from mahiyya perspective, because mahiyya is not illusion, just mahiyya is i'tibari, is subordinate to wujud. So we said because this is contingent and has equal nisba relation to wujud and adam, existence and non-existence, it needs cause. So al-mahiyatu amkanat fahtajat. So because of being mumkin is muhtaj, because of being contingent is in need of the cause. Okay, this is what we have discussed before. So based on this, if something is wajibul wujud bizat, does this need cause? No. Wajibul bizat doesn't need cause. If something is mumtana'ul wujud bizat, doesn't need cause. Only mumkinul wujud bizat needs cause for existence. And non-existence of the cause for existence is the cause for non-existence. Adamul illah illatun la adamil wujud. Okay, this is the discussion. The same can be said about ja'al ta'lifi. This was about wujud and mahiyya, either is mumkin or wajib or mumtana. When it is mumkin, we need cause. Now we go to ja'al ta'lifi. When we are not talking about wujud of mahiyya, we are talking about something else. For example, we say al-arba'atu zawjun. Number 4 is even. To be even for 4, is it necessary or it's not necessary? We say it is necessary because الزوجية للأربعة من لوازم الماهية. This is one of the requirements, necessary requirements of mahiyya of arba'ah. We cannot think of arba'ah unless it is zawj. As we cannot think about any mahiyya unless it is mumkin. Imkan min lawazim al-mahiyya. Zawjiyya min lawazim mahiyyat al-arba'ah. So, if it is like this, if it is necessary implication or requirement, then we don't need ja'al. We don't need someone to come and make 4 even. If we have 4 apples, they are even. We don't need to make 4 apples and then make those 4 apples even. The same thing that creates 4 apples has made them even. We don't need anything. Like the same thing that makes a human being makes it a mumkin. Okay? So where we can think of ja'al ta'lifi, when it's not zatiyat or lawazim zat. If something is part of the essence, we don't need جعل تعلیفی. For example, to make انسان انسان, we don't need جعل تعلیفی. To make انسان حیوان or ناطق, we don't need جعل تعلیفی. To make انسان ممکن أربع زوج, we don't need جعل تعلیفی. But if, for example, a human being is given a quality or some qualities are changing, which are not, this shows that they are not essential, they are not necessary, because if they were essential or necessary, they were not changing. So if there are things that change, like being, for example, alim or not alim, being a student, not student, being a writer or not writer, these kind of things, these are then possible to have جعل تعلیفی. And it is for such things that we ask. For example, something is moving from one point to another point. We can ask why it is moving from this point to that point. Or a car is moving. We can ask why this car is moving. Moving of the car is different from existence of the car. In other words, Ayatummah Mutahhari says, sometimes for something there are two options or more than two options. Then we can ask why it went to this option, not the other option. But if something by essence or by necessary implication of essence is fixed, then the first ja'al for creating that thing is enough. Point 7. This is what we have studied in logic. It's just a reminder. In the discussion about kulliyat, Bab Isa Ghuji, about kulliyat, we say kulliyat, either they are zati or aradi, not araz. Araz is opposite to jawhar, used in contrast to jawhar, but it's arazi. Zati, essential. Arazi means not essential, means outside the essence. Zati, we said, is either jins or fasl or no. Arzi, we said, is either araz lazim or araz mufariq. Lazim, araz lazim is something which cannot be separated. It's necessary. Like what? Like imkan for insan. Arba'a is always zoj. So zojiyah is araz lazim. Araz mufariq, something that can have different conditions. For example, a human being is smiling, dhahik. Another time is not dhahik. So dhahikiyya for insan is not like natiqiyya for insan. It's not like haywaniyya for insan. Haywaniyya, natiqiyya are essential. Dhahikiyya is not essential. Dhahikiyya even is not like imkan, because imkan is arazi but lazim, is necessary. But this is mufariq. This can be coming and going, can be separated. So this is one terminology in the discussion about kulliyat khams or Bab Isa Ghuji. When they say zati, they mean this. There is another meaning of zati that in Bab Burhan, when they talk in Sana'at Khams about Burhan, about demonstration, and they say zati, which is the same that when they are defining subject matter of any science, they say موضوع كل علم ما يبحث في عن عوارضه الذاتية. That zati is not zati of kulliyat khams or Isa Ghuji. Zati in Bab Burhan means something that it cannot be separated from something. Either it is because it is zati in the sense of jins or fasl no, or is araz lazim. So anything that cannot be separated is zati. Therefore, imkan in this sense, in Bab Burhan, is zati. for insan. حيوانية ناطقية is also ذاتي. Okay? So, now جعل تعلیفی is only when it's not ذاتی in this sense of برهان, or it's not ذاتی from باب کلیات خمس ایساقوجی and عرض لازم. The same thing. So you say it's not jins, fast, no, or عرض لازم, or you say it's not ذاتی in the sense of باب برهان. Because we need something that can change. If it is jins or faslo, no, or عرض لازم, it's fixed, it's always there, it's necessary. I cannot think of making insan. This is تحصیل الحاصل. Yeah, philosophers say تحصیل الحاصل مستحيل. If something is already with some necessary quality, we cannot make it with that quality. Can we make Zayd insan? Zayd is already insan. Can we make Zayd mumkin? Zayd is already mumkin. Hakim Sabzewari says, في عرضی قد بدا مفارقا لا غير بالجعل المؤلف انطقا. You can only speak. انطقا means انطق, speak. Speak for جعل مؤلف or جعل تعلیفی only in عرضی which is مفارق. Only about عرضی مفارق, like ضحك, like كاتبية for إنسان, عرض مفارق. Only here you can talk about جعل مؤلف. Otherwise, جعل البسيط is enough to bring all ذاتيات and لوازم ذات all together comes with جعل البسيط. 8th point. When we say, this is a very good point, although maybe it's not needed, Ayatummah Mutahhari said directly here, but it's a good thing and a good reminder, and I'm sure you know this. When we say insan for its zatiyat or lawazim zat doesn't need ja'al, doesn't need cause to make it, it doesn't mean that we always have insan outside and therefore we have haywan, natiq, and mumkin. No. We mean that if there is insan, it is haywan, it is natiq, it is mumkin, if there is insan. But to have insan, we need ja'al basit, of course. We don't say that because it is zati or araz lazim, so it doesn't need creator. No. Insan is haywan, always. But is insan existing or not? It depends on the cause. This is why Ibn al-Ra'is says, we had this before, if you remember in previous courses. ما جعل الله المشمشة مشمشة بل أوجدها. Allah has not made apricot. Because to be apricot for apricot is necessary. It's like insan being insan. What Allah as the cause does is أوجدها, gives existence to apricot. 4 is 4, is 1 plus 3. But if you have 4 apples, these apples need cause. But 3 plus 1 is 4, or 4 is zoj, is even, this doesn't need cause. So for existence of mahiyya and for existence of its zatiyat, etc., we need the cause. But we want to say that these don't need separate cause. I chose this sentence from the text. مادامی که ذات موضوع موجود است. You are familiar with قضایای موجهه. So if you want to give a modality to this, you can say it in this way, that this is قضیه دائمه، دائمة الذات. In this sense, let's don't complicate it, just in this way. As long as the essence of the subject is there, it has this mahmul. When we say al-insanu haywan, what does it mean? It means if there is insan, it's definitely haywan. But we don't say it's mawjud or not mawjud. Al-insanu haywanun. Maybe insan is mawjud, maybe insan is not mawjud. We have to understand it from another source. If we had no human beings, insan is haywan still. Yeah, you cannot have insan without haywaniyah. Or we say, for example, al-bayadu mufarriqun lil-basar. Color white is dividing the vision. Means it's causing your eye, to be, for example, blinking or whatever. It's a little bit opening your eyes, for example, or restricting. Maybe it's better to say limiting your eyes. When it is black, you have to open more your eye. So they call it mufarriqun lil-basar. Maybe we have this color white, maybe we don't have this color white, but it's always with this quality. If it is there, it has this quality. If it doesn't exist, this quality actually is not exhibited, but it has this quality in its essence. The ninth point is that whenever there is ja'al al-Basiط, means there is no multiplicity in the real world. There's one thing. Whenever there is ja'al al-Ta'rif, it has to be a multiplicity, a distinction, so that there is something and there is another thing that is given to the first thing. Two things that are separable from each other. Then the 10th point, he is making a comparison between giving a gift to someone and giving existence by the cause to the effect. He says maybe we think that it's like a gift. When someone gives, for example, a dress or clothes, some clothes to someone, you have 5 elements. The one who gives, the one who receives, the gift itself is the cloth, and the act of giving and the act of receiving. There are 5 elements. But some people think the same is about existence. Something is giving existence to something else, ma'lul, and ma'lul is receiving, and this is giving. So the giver, the one who receives it, the gift of existence, and then the act of giving, the act of receiving. But he says this is wrong. In the case of if someone gives a, a shirt to someone, that person exists before giving the shirt. And shirt is additional. But when Allah is giving existence, before giving existence, there is nothing there. And there is nothing therefore to take. By giving, that thing is created. So we must not think that there is something that exists independently and now we are giving existence to it. So, ijad and wujud, they come together. Therefore we said that it is in analysis that we say al-ma'iyatu amkanat fahtajat fa'ujibat fa'wajabat fa'ujidat fa'wujidat. This is analysis. Otherwise, ijad and wujud are the same. Coming together. These are considerations which are different. And he says this point that ijad and wujud are the same is by itself enough to understand that asalatul wujud is correct. Because if asalatul mahiyya was correct, mahiyya was there to receive wujud. But we say mahiyya without wujud is nothing. In reality, it doesn't exist. In the external world. Mahiyya in itself is nothing except itself. Al-mahiyyatu min haythu hiya laysat illahiyya la mawjuda wa la ma'duma. 11. He says, according to asalatul wujud, Ja'al is a matter of bringing into existence. Then he says, can we make Ja'al divided into bringing into existence fi nafseh and bringing into existence as a rabit? And this question is the last point here in this lesson. He says, بنابر اصالت وجود در جعل و در تحقق حقیقت ایجاد عین حقیقت وجود است. So, ایجاد, the reality of ایجاد is the same reality as existence. There is one existence, so we say it is given. But it's just creating this existence. So, he says, after a few lines, the fact is this, the truth of matter is this, that there is no such a thing as ja'al ta'alifi or ijad ta'alifi. This is a very deep discussion, and it's very much related to discussion about harakat al-Jawhari. He says, it's not that the cause gives existence and then gives haraka to it, changes to it. It's a matter of creating wujud sayyal, creating a changeable and a moving existence. When you give existence to something that by its very substance is changeable, then you don't need to give change separately to it. You create something changeable. If you remember in Bidayatul Hikmah and Falsafi Muqaddamati, we had this discussion about Rabt Hadis and Qadim. How something which is not changeable creates this world which is full of changes. And over there we said Qadim, which is Allah, or for example we come to the level of Aql Fa'al, which is Mujarrad Tam, doesn't need to make all the changes and therefore goes through changes. Makes something which is mutaharrik, not make something and then give haraka to it. So Ayatummah Mutahhari wants to say that basically Ja'al Ta'alifi doesn't make sense in this scenario or in this way of understanding. We have only Ja'al al-Basīt. Sometimes we talk about existence alone, sometimes we talk about existence and changes, but it's with one act of giving by the cause. Although I have some reservation here, and I think maybe not all the changes are like this, but I think we don't need to discuss it here. Inshallah, when we talk about harakat, inshallah, maybe over there it becomes clearer. And then he refers to different ways of classifying Ja'al. it can be جعل وجود, it can be جعل ماهیت, it can be جعل السيرورات, and then بالذات, بالعرض, بسيط, مركب. But I don't think we need to go into all these details. What we have understood so far, I think it's clear that sometimes the cause gives existence. When we say al-insanu mawjudun, this is جعل بسيط. And sometimes the cause makes something that exists with a quality which is changeable. This is جعل تعليفي. And we know that جعل تعليفي can only be true about what? About something which is not part of the essence or عرض لازم. Means it is outside the essence, but it is necessary. In these cases, we don't have جعل تعليفي. It's جعل بسيط. جعل تعليفي is for something which is not necessarily connected with that thing, and the cause can come and give. So, alhamdulillah, our discussion about جعل also finishes. Inshallah, in the next session, we will start the second section of the book about الوجوب والإمكان, الفريدة الثانية. Farida is for the sections, and Ghurar, the plural is Ghurar, is for the chapters of each section. So we had 17 Ghurar for first Farida of the book. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Do you have any questions?
What is your